Hi guys, welcome to Palace to the Core. My name is Stephen Dawes. Thank you for joining me as always. I apologise for the mess behind me, but we're kind of sorting things out at the minute. Right, so I thought I would do a video about the Marc Guehi situation because I did mention it in a little bit in my previous video, but I thought that it would be a good idea for me to maybe explain things a little bit more from my point of view. It's just my opinion. I don't have any inside knowledge or anything like that. But I just thought I'd address some of the stories that are going around at the moment. The first one is that Marc Guehi is apparently really angry, really upset, might ditch the captain's armband because of it and things like this. Now, I would imagine he is upset, maybe even angry, because, you know, when you think about how far this deal got, he had the medical, he was just about to sign the papers, they put in that extension form so they could keep going till 9 PM on deadline day. Everything was looking like it was going to be gone, and then at the very last moment the club pulled the deal. So I think he's going to be upset. I mean, who wouldn't be if you got that far along in the deal and then all of a sudden they say it's off? Even though he loves Crystal Palace and even though he loves playing for Crystal Palace, it's still going to be annoying, isn't it? I would say. But I don't think he's going to stop playing. I don't think he's going to stop training or anything like that, for two reasons. One, because he is a consummate professional and because he accepts that these things happen, I think, even though he might not be happy with it. I think the second reason is, of course, that we've got a major tournament coming up at the end of the season. If he decides not to play, he's only going to be making himself unavailable. You know, they're not going to pick him if he's not playing. So I don't think he's going to stop playing. I think he'll carry on. I think he'll still give his good performances. There is perhaps a little thing that might, you know, perhaps it might have got into his head, perhaps it might have unsettled him a little bit, maybe. He is very professional, so I think that he would still give his best, but maybe it would have swayed his mind a little bit or upset his mind. I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments on that one. The second thing I think, of course, is the Oliver Glasner Steve Parish situation. Now, I accept the fact there are people out there who said, you know, Steve Parish is one of our most successful chairmen that we've ever had, and he is. He's done a huge amount for Palace, rescued us from the brink, brought in Oliver Glasner, who is a top-class manager, and who has delivered us silverware for the first time in our history, in terms of the FA Cup and the Community Shield. But at the same time, I think he underestimated how far Glasner would go on this. I think, you know, Oliver Glasner was very public about the fact that he said that we need to get a replacement in for Marc Guehi. I think he was very vocal about the fact that if we don't have a replacement, we can't get rid of him. We have to keep him for a little bit longer. And I think that maybe Steve Parish didn't quite understand the strength of feeling that he had. Oliver Glasner doesn't want to let him go yet until they get a replacement. The replacement they were going to get from Brighton turned around and went. So I think at that point you've got to say we've got to keep him. And I think Glasner, there are rumours that he threatened to walk. Obviously I don't know about that. I don't have any inside information. But something obviously happened to make them think we can't get rid of Guehi at the moment. What that does to their relationship in terms of how they go forward from here, I don't know. But, you know, I think Steve Parish must have understood what Glaston was about. I mean, you know, previous clubs, when he's had run-ins with chairman about reinforcements and bringing players in, he's decided then to leave the club at a later time because of that, or in some ways because of that. So I think, you know, when you've got his contract talks coming up, his contract ends at the end of this season, you have to think to yourself, will he stay? I think some of it depends on what's available at the time. You know, if a big job comes up, it might sway him. If things continue to not work well for him and Steve Parish, so for example, if the January window comes around and we still don't get a good defender in and Marc Guehi leaves, I think that would be a big issue. But I think if we get players in January, maybe a replacement for Guehi, then things might smooth themselves out. It's going to be a difficult thing to call, but I think if it happens, if Glasner decides to go and walk away at the end of the season, I think it's the club's fault. Maybe not Steve Parish entirely. Maybe there are other people behind the scenes that have had something to do with it. But it's going to have to be on Steve Parish, isn't it? Even though he is being incredibly successful, I think if Glasner decides to walk at the end of the season, I think it's going to have to be because of Steve Parish making the wrong decisions. Anyway, so I think that there has to be some kind of talks. I'm sure there will be over the next couple of weeks because it's the international break. And so I think they're going to be sitting down and having a chat about what happened, and hopefully they'll be able to smooth things over. I think when the next press conference comes up, I'm sure he's going to be asked a question, and I think it depends on what his answers are. Whether he goes along with the club official line and says that everything's fine, or whether he decides to say what he has said before about not having reinforcements. We'll have to wait and see. But I just think that it's a shame that it's happened. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think that Glasner will be here to the end of the season. I don't think he's going to walk. I think that we've got Guehi now till January at least, and I think that things are okay at the moment. So hopefully things will continue on the way they are and everything will be fine. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments section. What do you think about the relationship now between Oliver Glasner and Steve Parish? Do you think that it can come back from what happened? Do you think that there is a problem? Maybe there isn't. Maybe they both decided together that this isn't a good idea. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section. As always, please do subscribe if you've got this far. And I'll see you next time.